Greetings. Welcome to In Conversation with Trevor, brought to you by Heart and Soul Broadcasting Services. I go beyond the headlines and beyond the sensational. Today I'm in conversation with Marlene Chiedza Gadzirayi, the Zimbabwe Olympic Committee Chief Executive Officer. If you enjoy this conversation, remember to subscribe, to like, and to share. Let's get down to some work. Marlene Chiedza Gadzirayi, welcome to In Conversation.
Thank you, Trevor. Thank you for having me.
I like Chiedza.
Indeed, that's my normal name.
That's the normal name. Okay.
Marlene is my first name, but that's my formal name.
Yeah.
But at home, I'm called Chiedza.
Chiedza.
So,
I love Chiedza.
yeah.
It's a beautiful name. Marlene, you have been through a lot, and I'm delighted that you are not shy to come to a public platform of this nature and continue to share your story. Let's start in 2019, when you are diagnosed with stage 3 colorectal cancer. Talk to me about the day you received that news, the confirmation of what you might have feared.
Right. I think I'll just say, actually, first of all, I never saw it coming because of the type of cancer. So I can't say I had a lump like in breast cancer or anything. This is actually sort of pre-2019, years before I really was quite ill, self-diagnosed with chronic constipation and stuff like that. So I'll just fast forward first to the day that I got the news.
Yeah.
This was after I had I'd gone through surgery, initial surgery, and I thought I had piles. And then I was discharged after about 5 days from hospital. And then a week later, the doctor called me back and said, are you free tomorrow? I'd like you to come through so that we have a chat. But I was so nervous, and he called around 10 in the morning. And then I think after an hour, I said, doctor, are you busy right now?
I want to come.
Can I come now? and then he says, oh yeah, sure, come. I was supposed to have another surgery, but no, it's been moved to another day. So yeah, you can come through. And so I drove back to his surgery. And he says, oh yeah, so remember we took a biopsy, and by the way, I had no idea what a biopsy meant. And he said, I think the good and the bad part of it was that this doctor is very friendly, staff is very friendly. And so, when someone delivers news to you with
Who
a
is the
smile.
doctor? Can we name him?
Dr. Kundiwona, called
Okay,
Mr.
Dr.
Kundiwona.
Okay,
actually.
Mr. Kundiwona.
Mr. Kundiwona, he's a specialist, And he says, oh yeah, so I hope you're recovering well after the operation and all. So we got the results from the biopsy, and it confirms that you actually have cancer. And I think at that moment, everything else that he mentioned is quite a blur. I don't remember what he said, but it was about saying, okay, so you need to start treatment, you may need chemotherapy, you may need radiotherapy, you may need, and he then says, okay, so the oncologist in Harare, he was giving me everything that I should do, but in that moment I was like, cancer? Me? It hit me very hard. But then I held myself so well in those 10, 15 minutes while I was in his rooms. And he gave me some documentation, some referral letters. And it was after I left, I just drove out just a few meters away from the surgery, and I parked and I started crying. It was so difficult for me. It was really terrible news in that moment. And immediately I was like, God, why? Why am I going through this? What has happened? Why me? Why now? Why cancer? I had a myriad of questions to God. This was even before I actually understood what colorectal cancer was, but just the word cancer, it's not easy to just accept and to just embrace at that time. So it was difficult.
So you're asking God, why me?
Yeah.
And what answer do you get? What?
In asking that question, I think I had then some lessons later on, but I'm Catholic, born Catholic, learned at Catholic schools, and I was very active in the Catholic Church. And this is me who would go to church, to Mass, Monday to Friday, Sunday to Friday. Sunday, main Mass, Monday morning Mass, 6:30 a.m. I'm there. I was in the liturgy committee. I did the roster for readers. I taught people to read the Bible in Shona. I was in the fundraising committee. I did.
God, this is me doing so much for you.
Yeah, I've been here. How do you let this happen to me? And so at that moment, I didn't get any answers. I had more questions than anything. Yeah.
I suppose we'll get to a point where you get a sense that you get the answers. So you park, you then drive home.
Yes.
Talk to me about that.
I didn't drive home, actually. I called my priest and I said, I've just been diagnosed with cancer, but I don't want to tell my parents. I don't want to bother them. I think I was really confused. Like, how do you hide a cancer diagnosis from your family? And he actually then called my mother and told her the news. He says, she's just at the doctor's. This is what has happened. And so I actually didn't go home. They just agreed, okay, let's meet at church. So I went to church, right? I met my mother there. I was just crying, and the priest was there, the assistant priest was there. And then, they just said, let's get into church. Let's pray. For the first time, I couldn't pray. I just got in there and I just knelt and I was like, really? I was angry. And this is me asking why. And I was
angry with God.
I was angry with God. I was angry with God, and I just knelt there. I saw my mom praying. I saw the priest praying. I was just looking up. I was looking at the ceiling. I wrote about this, and I said I was counting the number of light bulbs. I looked at the ceiling. I could not pray. A lot was happening in my head. So after that, then we went home, and I think we started trying to embrace and make of what it was, what was the diagnosis. And by the way, the staging hadn't been done. It was just, you get a biopsy, this is cancer. Everything else is now in the hands of the oncologist. And it was myself and my mother who knew. It took us a few days to actually tell my father, because I didn't know how to tell him and what we were supposed to say to him. My mom is a nurse by profession, so it was a little easier to have her in a bit quickly, but then to tell my father and the rest of the family was quite difficult. So I was gauging, okay, let me tell my older sister.
I find it fascinating, Chiedza, that you are finding it difficult to tell them that you've got cancer.
Yeah.
Instead of the other way around, how will they receive this news? Did you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Did you get to a reconciliation with God, and how quickly did that happen?
I think because I continued going to church, and even during treatment, every Sunday was church day, and even during some mornings, I would still continue going for morning mass, and I didn't really relinquish a lot of my duties. And so because I sort of had to be present, it was like remain in that realm, remain in God's presence, and maybe He will reveal something to you. But it took time. It took time. People would pray. People would just come and visit, and it was so difficult for me to really understand. But I think it was during those moments that I was not working. I was just at home. I think music actually sort of changed me. When you go through something and you listen to different songs, they have a different meaning. And I remember one of the songs was the God on the mountain is still the God in the valley is still God on the mountain. So when things go wrong, He'll make them right.
Absolutely.
I listened to My Charamba Ndiri Munana song. My Charamba song came towards the end of treatment, where one of the lines is pane vaifunga kuti andirarami pane vakataura kuti ndatova, but here I am, ndiri munana. So I started listening to that, and in as much as I'm Catholic, I listened a lot to Joe Austin sermons. I still do. So, and his mother was diagnosed with terminal cancer. Yes. So when I started listening to those sermons, and I realized, okay, this is this can happen to anyone. You don't choose. And also at the same time, the answer of my why question or my being angry at God, you realize I learned that we don't do favors to God. You cannot bribe God. So you cannot say, but ndaiuya church, I did this, I was born into the Catholic Church. I went to a Catholic school where we were, the motto at my high school was ora et labora, pray and work. If we're not in class, we're praying. That's what I always say. But you don't bribe God. It's, his grace is sufficient for everyone. And whatever you go through, he knows.
And for every season.
There is something like that.
Talk to me, Chiedza, about the lessons that you extracted, in particular at that moment, the finding out. If there's somebody out there who's watching you right now, who's going through what you're going through, what lessons did you extract from that? That season of why me, God, playing music, going back to church to pray and so forth. What guidance would you give others? What did you extract from that?
One of the statements that one of the priests said, he said, I think that is a very powerful statement where there is nothing that God doesn't know that's happening to us. And for you to go through something, you have to go through it. And sometimes I then realize maybe you went through that mountain so that others can use your story as inspiration. And my reconciliation also with God was, you know what, you don't have to stretch yourself. You don't have to try and impress me. You cannot impress God. So you cannot, because, there are times when I would be sick, but then I'm like, no, I need to go for morning mass. I need to check if the readers are in order. I need to check if the chairs are in order. I need to do the announcements. I need to look at the young adults. I had a young adults group. But then, no, God is saying, hold on, relax. I've got this. I've got you. Something is cooking. I will make things right. And I think that was a very big lesson for me.
I suppose the big lesson from that is that our lives are not ours. They're God's. It's God's life.
Indeed.
He created us for a purpose. Mm-hmm. And he will do as he wishes with us. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Told me, you then went through what I call an ordeal. I mean, surgery, chemotherapy, 40 rounds of radiotherapy rather. That can't be easy.
That was hard. It was, I think for me, I said cancer is a definition of pain. And with cancer treatment is different from any other treatment for any sickness. If you have a sore throat, you can take throat lozenges. Within a few hours, your throat feels better. But with chemotherapy, radiotherapy, it's darkest before dawn. You start feeling worse. And I always said, there are times when I forgot what I was really being treated for because there was always a ripple effect. So the medication, the chemotherapy, sometimes would make me have diarrhea. And then I needed a prescription for the diarrhea to stop. And those prescriptive tablets sometimes would then cause constipation. And then I needed to get laxatives to, get rid of the constipation. Meanwhile, I am in so much pain. I went on morphine and then I reacted to the morphine. And so I had mnyawiri, I just swelled up, and then I needed clofeniramine to deal with that. So it was, so every time I woke up, I didn't know what was coming, what pain was coming. And having to go for radiotherapy was also very intense for me because you're not treated while you're at home. You have to go to the machine. So even if I did not want to go, every Monday to Friday, I had to be up. I had to be there at 10 a.m., get there. I couldn't sit properly, so I'd just lie down. And then I had to get in. And the side effects would be happening there. I was throwing up. I had no appetite. I lost my sense of taste. And sometimes I would just be crying all night. And to be honest with you, there are times when I just say, God, I'm done. I just don't wake me up tomorrow. I went through that phase.
You nearly gave up? What kept you going?
I think because my story was public, I started sharing my story. That was a coping mechanism. Sometimes I write just to get things out. My intention was not to inspire anyone. I just needed to let it out. And I'll just write, today I'm feeling so much pain. I'm going for radiotherapy today. I don't feel like this. I couldn't eat. Oh, today
where were you posting that?
On Facebook.
Facebook.
Mainly Facebook, yeah. Sometimes Instagram. And then I started a blog later on. But then because of that, people started asking questions. You're talking about radiotherapy. They say, what is the process? Like, and to be honest, also when I went, the first day I went for radiotherapy, I thought they were going to set me up on fire just to get rid of the cancer. So I started explaining to people, and within there, people started saying, "Oh, I've got my cousin who's got cancer. Can you talk to them because you're so strong?" Strong? I'm not strong. I'm struggling right now, but I needed to also inspire others, even during treatment. So right as we get into the radiotherapy area, there's somebody who's there who's just crying, and I'll just go in and say, "You know what? You've got this. We can go through this. Let's go through this together," and also because I got a lot of support from family, from friends. There was a GoFundMe because cancer treatment is quite expensive. And part of it is that I felt I needed to do it for them because people were digging deep into their pockets to just make sure that I was okay.
So that became another reason for keeping going.
Yeah, it did. Because I was just here, like I used to work at Footballers Union of Zimbabwe, and they said, okay, so what can we do? And I said, oh, there's chemo medication I need. And they'll just send money to the pharmacy. And so when I'd get the prescription, I was like, oh, you actually have a credit balance. Somebody has paid for this. So that was also part of why I needed to keep going.
Well, what lessons do you extract from that period of 40 rounds of radiotherapy, surgery after surgery, and chemotherapy?
First of all, I felt it was like my life had stopped and everybody else has kept going. Because also I remained in a lot of WhatsApp groups. I didn't exit. And so some of my friends during the time, they would be celebrating victories. Somebody gave birth, somebody's child is starting school. And my celebration was, I found this medication which had to be imported from outside. Those were the things I was celebrating. To an extent, I felt it was unfair, but I felt sometimes you need to take a break. I think when I look at it, another priest said you needed to get off your high horse and just relax and calm down and just let God take over. So the lesson for me there is, like you said, life is not ours. It's all about God. And sometimes you have to go through pain. You have to go through pain to sort of get to some other place, to cross over in a way. And when I would go to radiotherapy, there's a plaque, it's still there. It says, one day at a time, I can and I will. It taught me to take a day at a time. In sickness, in work, in social life, it just take a day at a time. Don't live so much in the future so that you forget to live in the present or to celebrate the present.
The principle that I live by is that right now, this is the most important moment I have.
Indeed.
If I begin to wish I was somewhere else, then I'm not going to enjoy this moment I'm having with Chiedza here. Chiedza, you are in remission now, and you've been for 4 years. And we're going to take a break here. When we come back, viewers, we're going to go into that space. What does it mean to be in remission? So don't go away. We'll see you on the other side.
There is a danger of the cancer bouncing right back.
Welcome back to our conversation with Marlene Chiedza Gadzirayi, the Zimbabwe Olympic Committee COO. Chiedza, before we took the break, we just shared with viewers out there that you have been in remission for 4 years now. What does that mean, being in remission?
Remission means that there are no new cancer cells that have been found through tests. So after treatment is done, you continue going for tests like every month. The injections, they take checking your blood, they're doing CT scans just to see how far the tumors have gone. So they're reducing in size and there are no new cancer cells that have been found. So it's called a remission because there is a danger of the cancer bouncing right back. And according to research, I like Googling a lot, it says you can only say you're cancer-free after 5 years. So that's why I keep celebrating every single year. And after 5 years, yes, you can say you're cancer-free, but you still will be in remission. So sometimes you can hear somebody says, you know, I've been in remission for 13 years, because once you've had cancer, there is a chance of the cancer coming back. But yeah, but that's what exactly it means.
Tell me about this sounds like, life is uncertain at all times, but this is being uncertain about something that you know you've got, being in remission. What's your state of mind? Getting up every day, every month rather, having to go and check. What's your state of mind? I
am more grateful about every single day that I wake up now. Not in pain. The test for me is just a once-off. At first, I think in the first year, I was very much afraid that the cancer would come back. So I lived for the tests. So after 2 weeks, I'm just thinking, okay, I'm going back in 2 weeks. Is there anything that has changed? Am I feeling any pain? And then I would go for the test and then wait for the results. And then again, I start living for the next test. But after that, I realized, no, that's not how I'm supposed to be doing this. Just keep calm. When the tests come, then you go and you have the test done. And I think also having to keep a positive mindset, because during the time that I was in and out of hospital, the blood transfusions, sometimes in ICU, and I'm not in hospital. I'm not seeing any doctor for anything, well, except this test. It's been a time that I celebrate every single day. And so I wake up, I'm like, thank you, God, I'm up. What's up for today? You know? So
you don't take any day for granted.
I can't. And now it's to an extent that even my oncologist assistant is the one who then calls, you have an appointment in 2 days. I'm like, oh, okay, by the way. So I've stopped living for those appointments. I'm just like, okay, so I'm going for my blood test. I'm going for the scan.
Because you're living for the appointment means you're skipping a couple of days.
I'll be skipping.
Already rushing there.
I'll be rushing to the next one.
Feeling the pain already.
Indeed.
Are you getting any support? Are you getting any therapy? Is there a circle of support around you to help you go through this? Are you going through psychological therapy or something of that sort?
Not professionally. I am supposed to, but I haven't sort of got myself around to doing that. My doctor has also been quite hands-on, and so I sort of rely a lot on him when I talk to him. But I've had a number of people from church, my colleagues, my friends, that do regularly check on me, that have my mentors as well, who also help me get my mind off the illness and ask me, so what's next in your life? Where is your 5-year plan? What are you doing in the next 3 months? You know, how is your career going? So it has also helped me move away from just thinking about illness or thinking about what's next in terms of the test. What if the cancer comes back? I'm not thinking about that. I'll see it if it comes back. If not, I'm very much okay.
That's a beautiful attitude. Yeah. This is a tough thing to go through. Kudos to you. And indeed, many out there were going through this. What is this taught about you? What has this taught you about you, rather? What have you learned about yourself, which you didn't know in 2019?
Resilience. I didn't know I could be resilient. I felt that I could easily give up on things. But yeah, I think that's the first, that resilience, because being told that you have cancer, and you know, growing up, the movies, even up to now, I haven't really watched a movie which has a cancer theme where the cancer patient actually survives. It's always about death. Oh, you've got 3 months to live, you've got 2 weeks to live, and the movie is really about the family trying to accept, shaving off their hair in solidarity, and then at the end of the movie, you just see people at somebody's gravesite, and you know, showing that they're moving on and all. So because of that, it's very easy to just think that, okay, so I'm going to die. But at the same time, I think it has taught me to also have a spirit of detachment from things. Sometimes we live for our jobs. Sometimes we live for the next vehicle, the next piece of clothing, the next, you know, anything. But during the time that I was doing nothing but going for treatment. I had to detach myself from work. I had to detach myself from the world and sort of see things in a new perspective. So it has also helped me embrace the present. It has helped me embrace every single moment. And it has, I think, lastly, what it has also taught me is, I think I can inspire people. I can talk to people. My doctor that's Dr. Kadzatsa, was my oncologist, would actually just say, okay, so I've got 1, 2, 3 patients. One is in Parinyat, one is at this hospital. Do you mind going to talk to them? And I would go. I go to his rooms now and I sit
What does that do to you?
I think it gives me some kind of purpose, where I say there's purpose in my pain. And the time I was diagnosed, I was like, I'm only 33, I'm very young. But then I'm sent to talk to a 19-year-old. And then I realized, no.
Remember you said, but why God?
Yeah.
This
I guess
God is saying, so that you do this.
So that you do this.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think, push back if you may on this. I mean, I have discovered in life that the lessons, this sounds like a contradiction, the lessons that life teaches us are not for us.
Indeed.
But for others.
Indeed. I still had moments when I would still be asking why. But I've met a number of cancer patients and they'll be like, thank you for talking to me. There are people who were scared of medication. And because I've always said that I am the worst example of a patient. By the time I actually got diagnosed, stage 3B, I always say it's a polite way of saying stage 4. I never wanted to go to a doctor. I self-diagnosed. I would pop tablets, just painkillers, just to manage the pain. And going to other patients, they'll be saying, I don't want to see a doctor. And I'm like, I know, I've been there. Just go. Give science a chance as well. There are issues around cancer treatment where people are like, no, I'm just going to drink warm pineapple water. I'm like, no, not really. I think just get to hear what the doctor has to say. So it's
one doctor that you've encountered is Dr. Solomon Guramatunu.
Yes.
You had an eye surgery.
I did. I had an eye surgery in 2016.
Yeah. Did he like your hair?
Then yes, when he met me. Oh yeah.
Talk to me as briefly as possible about that
First
experience.
time I met Dr. Guramatunu, he didn't talk to me anything about my eye. He's like, thank you for wearing your natural hair. And even during the surgery, he was just talking about hair and being African and being authentic. He was also the chairperson of Bindura University Council. I learned at Bindura University. And I remember he gave a speech and he was talking about the statistics and the millions of dollars that are spent in just bringing hair. And a few months ago, I was again at the same podium with him, and yes, we're talking about hair.
Well, what did that do to you, him speaking about hair when you'd gone for eye surgery?
I love his passion about that, and I wish everybody would be as passionate and authentic about, what about being African, about being Black. Yeah. He's very passionate about that, and I found that very intriguing to hear that from a man, an eye specialist who's talking about hair in women. It taught me a lot of lessons beyond hair. It's about how diverse a person can be, and I was very inspired by him. Still am.
Interesting. He's been on the show. He continues to be passionate. We were at the Africa Day Gala dinner, and he took an opportunity to stand up and make a point. So we love people who are passionate about things that they're doing. Let's go to, where were you born, as quickly as possible? Where were you born? Where did you go to school? I
was born in Harare, Mbuyane Handa Maternity Home. Learned at Belvedere Primary School, and then I went to Monte Cassino Girls High School. And then Bindura University, I studied accounting. And later on, I did an MBA with the National University of Science and Technology. And recently, I was in the UK. I did a master's in management and finance at Sussex University. Yeah.
And you're an Arsenal fan. I think that's the best thing about you.
I think it's just a gift. That's a gift from God to be an Arsenal fan. And I say this...
Yeah.
Okay, it will sound very biased, but the journeys that Arsenal fans go through.
The test we've been through.
The test that we've been through. But even right now, I know Manchester City just won the league title.
But we're the best team.
But the happiest fans are the Arsenal fans. And even the money that came in. Arsenal actually had more money than Man City. Yeah. So, Yes, I am an Arsenal fan.
Beautiful. So, and you're an Arsenal fan. You are an accountant who's transitioned to sports. You are the chief executive of the Zimbabwe Olympic Committee. Talk to me about the task that the Zimbabwe Olympic Committee has in Zimbabwe, and you as a CEO, what role you play in that?
So the Zimbabwe Olympic Committee, we deal with the Olympics, which happen once every 4 years, and we also have Youth Olympics every 4 years as well. We're basically part of the International Olympic Committee, which is the Olympic movement. Our task is really to ensure that we facilitate and organize our athletes for Olympics. And one thing is that you're not invited for the Olympics, you qualify for the Olympics. So it's the highest stage of competition, very tough. But then there are also Olympic values that are there: respect, friendship, excellence, where we're looking at sport that can transcend beyond just being competition, but changing lives and in imparting values of Olympism at a local level as well. So that's really what we do.
But so within the intervening period, the 4 years, what does ZOC do? What do you do? How do you practically do that on the ground as the chief executive of the Zimbabwe Olympic Committee?
If you've watched Usain Bolt, he will tell you when he's talking about some motivational issues, he says, keep going. Do you know that I trained for 4 years to run for 10 seconds? So that's exactly what we do. Wow. It's about the preparation, looking at athletes, their potential for qualification and supporting them. We put some athletes on scholarships so that we support them to qualify and go through to the games. We also have sport administration courses. We're very much into sport administration. So we administer courses to administrators. From tomorrow, we actually have an administration course for the uniformed forces.
Wow.
We also celebrate the Olympic Day. We work with refugees as well, Tongogara refugee camp. We're looking at sport for all. We're looking at safeguarding and ensuring that they safe sport. So, and also we just try to spread out the Olympic values, Olympic movement. We also profile our own athletes, because we also really do not celebrate sport or our own athletes that much. So that's exactly what we do. We also ensure that the governance is also in order, because we do have the Sports and Recreation Commission, but also as the Olympic Committee also have affiliates where we also have our regulations, where we are looking at corporate governance as well, just making sure that administration is in order. Because so in football, we say what happens off the pitch affects what happens on the pitch. So we just try to make sure that everything really is in order within the sports realm. We also have issues around anti-doping, drug awareness. So there's a lot of education that happens within these 4 years, in as much as we're also preparing athletes. We're looking at technical courses for coaches, coach developers, courses. There are a lot of things that.
What's the infrastructure you've got? What's the committee? What's the size of the committee? And what infrastructure do you have? So
the Olympic Committee is like as a secretariat that serves. We have 33 affiliates. So from hockey to, that is for Olympic sports, Olympic sport codes, from hockey to football to athletics to equestrian to handball to volleyball, badminton, skateboarding, which is now an Olympic sport. So it's all those sports that we have, and we also have a board that also oversees strategy for the Olympic Committee.
And the committee itself, how big is it?
We actually Secretariat has got 7 members.
7 members. Yes. Who are those?
We have myself, and then we have a finance officer. We have a programs officer. We have 2 programs officers. We have a marketing officer. We have a caretaker and administration officer. And so within the board, we also have commissions within the board. We have 11 commissions: health commission, media commission, marketing commission, finance commission. So within those commissions, there are also up to 4 or 5 members as well.
Interesting. Drugs are a big problem in our society. You've already talked about doping. How prevalent are drugs within sports?
They are quite there. It's a cancer. It's a cancer that is within sport, and I'm happy that there are very tight rules around doping and anti-doping, and the recommendation is to make sure that we have doping tests, but we also looking to education before the testing, because sometimes it's very difficult because you don't test everyone. The tests are quite expensive. So what we're trying to move is to make sure that we have more education around that, because we always have an updated list of prohibited drugs, and it's very necessary that athletes get to know, get to learn, and get to understand. So by the time you then do conduct a test, especially for international matches, they understand what they're going through, and they don't look at it as a forensic audit per se. So it's something that we really need to work on. It's a very big topical issue within the Olympic movement. Yeah.
The 2024 Summer Olympics are around 26 July to August the 11th. What prospects do we have as a country?
So far, we have 5 athletes that have qualified, 4 in athletics. The 4, we have 2 marathon runners, Isaac Mpofu and Rutendo Nyaora. And then we have 2 200-meter runners. They qualified in the USA, Makanaka Ishecharamba and Tapua Makarao. And then we have 1 in rowing, that's Stephen Cox. The qualifiers are still ongoing. Strategically, we had hoped for 10 individuals and 1 sport. Unfortunately, we do not have a team sport that qualified. So we may get 2 more in swimming. But, athletics is still looking up, because there are African championships to happen in Cameroon in June. So we still have our hopes up. The qualifying window actually closes sort of early July. So we're not yet shutting ourselves down. But we do have the 5 that have so far qualified.
Do you think we'll do better than we did last time?
I believe so.
And any chance for gold, silver?
I believe so, because of the records that the athletes have set. Okay. Isaac Mpofu was at the Boston Marathon. There are thousands of runners there. He came 6th in the Boston Marathon. Number 1 and 2, Ethiopia. 3, 4, 5, Kenya. And then we came through. He won bronze at the African Games, the half marathon. He won gold at the Kazungula Marathon as part of his preparations. So I think he's really a high prospect. The guys in the USA broke their own records, broke the national record. Qualifying time for 200 meters is 20.16 seconds.
So you're optimistic.
They did 19 seconds. I believe we have a chance. We remain optimistic.
Tell me, in terms of your budget, where does your budget come from? Any contribution from corporate, from government?
At the moment, our budget is largely depend on the International Olympic Committee. Okay. So it comes really from the TV rights, broadcasting rights,
100%.
And not necessarily 100%, okay. But the biggest chunk. We've also applied to the government. They also come in to support us, especially during the times when we're going to the Olympics, and we also collaborate a lot. At the moment, we have Nedbank. They've come through. They're supporting Isaac Mpofu. He's also part of the marathon club. Minerva have come on board. They're providing us with the travel insurance. We really hope to get more corporates. Why? Because we're looking at journeying with athletes and not waiting for 2024, for 2028, for 2032. Because what we need to make sure is we support the athletes during their journey to the Olympics. So it's something that is really open, where we really definitely need a lot more corporate support in different sporting codes as well.
So corporate support you need, which is important. What else would make your life better as the CEO of Zimbabwe Olympic Committee?
Wow. Besides corporate support, because our focus is really on the athletes, we want to also have high performance centers in Zimbabwe. We want to track our athletes within Zimbabwe and outside, because I believe we can actually go to the Winter Olympics, because we have millions of Zimbabweans in the diaspora. So somebody in the UK, somebody in Europe, in the USA, can actually compete within the Winter Olympics. So I think for me, it's really about the facilities and equipment, where we make sure that we have the best conditions for athletes to actually train. And that would really make our lives easier, because it would be easier to have our inborn talent making waves outside them.
Fantastic. There's a stigma that surrounds cancer. I want us to go there when we come back. And you have been out there talking about your condition, and I want to get a sense as to what kind of responses you're getting from people. So there's still more left for us to get into. Don't go away. See you on the other side.
So how many children do you have? I don't have children. And I can't now after the cancer treatment. It's part of the side effect that happened to me.
Welcome back to our conversation with Chiedza Gadzirayi, the Zimbabwe Olympic Committee CEO. So when we took the break, you had warmed my heart by raising the prospect that we might be able to raise a team for the Winter Olympics. What is it that the private sector, society, can do to strengthen you as an organization? And sports is a very uniting thing. It unites us. If we succeed, it's very important in terms of building national unity. Mm-hmm. What is it that we can do as a society to make your work easier?
I think we also need a lot of operational support. I talked about our secretariat is only 7 people because that's really sort of what we can afford at the moment. But there's a lot of work to be done. There are a lot of more offices that I would really require to work with. There are more issues around sport that I would want to continue addressing. I talked about safeguarding. It's a post on its own. It really needs its own, its own people as well. If, in the end, we definitely would want to even have our own Olympic training center, a world-class center where, our athletes compete or train. And it's about our marketing as well. We need to have more resources to just ensure that we also capture everybody or every athlete, because at some point, yes, we then have some athletes that will go far, but then are they our best athletes? But then we also need a lot of manpower to ensure that, we go deep into the areas where some are said to be forgotten, because we also get a lot of talent from the forgotten areas, but we need that capacity
the rural areas, the townships.
Rural areas, the townships, to even have competitions where we need to know. My dream is that I want to know who's the fastest 100-meter runner in Binga, and then can I get that one to compete with the best in Mutora Shanga?
What does it take to do that? Is it volunteers? What does it take for corporates and everybody to
volunteers
get involved?
Indeed, but also just loads of partnerships as well. It's not just about volunteers. We also need to take care of them. Yeah. So those partnerships will definitely be critical. So I know geographically we have a lot of resources in Zimbabwe. So if the company is based in Mutare can just partner with us as well and say, you know what, we're going to do this, even if it's a talent search, because remember, we also work through the sports associations, the federations as well. They also help those federations so that in coming up even with teams or even in their operations as well. I talked about corporate governance, but sometimes you have a lot of volunteers running national sport associations, national sports federations, because there is no capacity to ensure that they have everything they have in need. I have a lot of requests for support. We have a provincial competition. Can you fund this? We have this. Like I said, we do have funding from the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, but we call them restricted funds. Yeah. They are for specific purposes. But we want to see sport, growing. We also want sport to be sustainable for the athletes themselves. How do we do that? In supporting these athletes, remember, sport is like for young people mostly, but what then happens after that? So we also want to talk about financial literacy. We want to talk about, investments. How do sports people invest? Looking at their medical aid. But then operationally, it's something we need to travel to these places. We need to make sure that we have teams around. So sometimes there's only 7 of us, like I mentioned, but we get invited. So can you come to handball? Can you come to tech ball? Can you come to a football workshop? We have somebody coming in from tennis. We have some. So we then spread ourselves too thin, and it becomes difficult to say yes to all these engagements, and some of them clash. But then I feel we need a sort of a bigger team that is funded, that is well equipped as well to move around and ensure that the work goes on.
Fantastic. Zimbabweans out there, you ask, what can I do to help build the nation? Sport is very important for nation building. So the corporates out there, there's an opportunity for you to get involved. Individuals, there's an opportunity to get involved as volunteers so that we win some gold medals, some silver medals, and some bronze, and we rally around our sports people. So let's jump in and help Chiedza and the rest of the team. Chiedza, is there a stigma associated with cancer, and how have you dealt with that?
Yes, there is a stigma associated with cancer. first of all, physically, the changes that happen during treatment, they are immense. I turned purple black and I lost so much weight. I was 65 kgs when I was diagnosed, and I think within 2 weeks to 3 weeks I was down to 45 kgs. And so when somebody just looks at you, they have their own ideas, they have their own images of what exactly is happening. And sometimes it has a negative connotation to it.
People behave with you as if it's infectious.
Indeed. Not well, sometimes, yeah, but then it's there's also the interpretation of your illness.
Yeah.
And people are asking, who did you offend in your family? It's always somebody in your family. And then there's also stigma around cancer treatment itself. People are so afraid of chemotherapy. People are afraid of radiotherapy. And so they try to divert you to go to some prophet or healer who they'll tell you that, you will be healed of this. And then also the side effects that also come with
Did you get
cancer.
tempted?
No. I got a lot of calls. But the time that I was also diagnosed, I was really quite sick. And because my mom is a nurse, my father is also very much into science as well. It was not so much of a decision that we had to run around and start seeking some of these other interventions. No, I just had to go to hospital and get admitted into hospital.
Wow.
And also the side effects that come with cancer. It wasn't easy as well. And even up to now, I think sometimes people will ask, oh, how old are you? I'm turning 38 this year. So how many children do you have? I don't have children. And I can't now after the cancer treatment. It's part of the side effect that happened to me. And so people will look at you like, okay, so if you can't have children, will you ever get married? And, questions around that. It gets personal at times. Sometimes there's a stigma, and then sometimes people feel sorry for you. But
what's your response to all that? Stigma, people feel sorry for you. You now can't have children, and people are raising all those issues. How do you react to that?
At first, it was very painful. I was tempted to go back to my why questions, but I am content. I'm very much content because. And I've just said out my age out loud, and people say a lady doesn't reveal their age. But I say it because I should have died when I was 33 years old. So any age that I turn, I happily celebrate. And for me, it's the fact that I'm alive, the fact that I am, where many people couldn't be. The people that I've talked to you about, the cancer patients I've dealt with, some of them have died. I watched a 15-year-old die in hospital. It was my first time ever going through that, and it was very painful. And so I mourn them, but because of them, I am happy that I can actually be here with or without societal expectations as well.
I hear lots of gratitude rather than complaining coming from you. Talk to me about that.
Trevor, I'm happy. I am grateful. When I talked about studying in the UK, there was a scholarship with a 2% acceptance rate, the Chevening Scholarship. And I was one of 3 women in there graduating with a distinction. And getting this job, I applied. I was in the UK. It was just about leaning in. I've read a lot of books about that. And being CEO at this age, where people are like, oh, this child, this girl, I'm grateful. I am at a place where during the time when I say, but God, everybody else's life is moving on, mine has stopped. No, He was planning something. And here I am. I'm in a place where every single day is so unpredictable. And I am so grateful about that. So I'm in a space where I never dreamt I would be in.
Fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing that this happens to you. And then this beautiful stuff happens here. Talk to me about that.
Oh, I have no words for that. I have no words for that. Even when I applied for the job, because at that point I was applying for anything and everything. And the joke came up, and I looked at my qualifications. Oh, I fit into that. I did an MBA, I did a degree, I did advanced sports management, and even going through the interview and getting the job. At that point, I didn't think much of it until the confirmation then came, and I started having this imposter syndrome. Can I do it? What is expected of me? What do CEOs do? What am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to network? Am I supposed to go for coffee every time? What am I supposed to do with staff? Will people older than me listen to me? But in all of that, it has been very good. I have been a student of leadership for years. I have a mentor who's also really been quite hands-on, who sort of
Who
helped
is your
me.
mentor?
It's called Depros Muchena.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Depros, we want Depros here one day.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'll make sure he comes.
Yeah.
I'll talk to him about that. He's
an amazing young person. Yeah,
he is. He's really helped me through, and it was also through him that I learned so much about leadership. I went to a leadership session. I was in the Student Representative Council at my university, and he got us through a book called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And so because of that, every time I talk to him, he'll be like, think about habit number 3. He doesn't talk about them. So I know them. Habit number 1, begin with the end in mind. No, habit number 1 is be proactive. Number 2, begin with the end in mind. Habit number 3, I know habit number 3.
It's okay.
First things first.
First things first.
Habit number 4, think win-win, all those. So it's been an amazing journey. There are times, I won't lie to you, that sometimes I still sort of go back into those dark spaces where loneliness sometimes comes in, like, but God, what was that? What did I go through? And then immediately it's like, no.
You snap out of it. Tell me, I get the sense you found your purpose?
I believe so.
What could that be?
My purpose was in the pain that I went through. I always say purpose in pain. And talking about what I went through, I have seen that a lot of people, every single day, I have WhatsApp groups of just trying to motivate people. And somebody would just call and say, can you talk to my aunt? She has cancer. Can you talk to... I think that's really part of my purpose, to just be there. And there are questions that people don't understand unless you've gone through cancer.
Absolutely.
People can ask you, I should call a doctor. I need to find out how much this is. They can as well just take the phone and make the call. But I understand it's not easy to just pick up your phone and call a doctor. I was scared of doctors, and so I understand there's that fear and stuff like that. But I think that is where I stand now.
Yeah. Depros Muchena, the 7 habits takes me to books. We love books here. Let's tend to books. Our viewers love books. What 3 books would you want to recommend to our book-loving audience out there that you've read?
Because I read books every 2 weeks, it's a very difficult question. But like I've said, the 7 habits of highly effective people, it's really an intriguing
That book changed my life.
It's amazing.
It set me on a course of having a morning routine and sticking to those 7 habits. It's done the same thing for you?
It has. Like I said, I was at habit number 4, think win-win. Habit number 5, seek first to understand before you understood. It's so biblical, but you use it in business, you use it in social life. Habit number 6, synergize. Habit number 7, sharpen the saw. That is very important. It's about mental health. Imagine when that book was written, it was way before mental health issues came in. But you know a saw is sharp, but no one ever thinks about sharpening. It's about taking care of yourself as well. So that's book number 1. I'll put them into categories. Let me go into category number 2, African literature. Bettina Gapa, Rotten Row, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, Purple Hibiscus, and Trevor Noah, Born a Crime. Those, and of course, and Chinua Achebe. Things Fall Apart.
African literature, one I would recommend is this book by Patisa Nyati. Patisa Nyati has written quite a number of books. He's also been on the show. I recommend Patisa Nyati's book. So that's the African category.
The African
Anything
category.
else?
And biographies, the third one is Arsene Wenger, my life in red and white. It's about his journey, his life journey.
Right.
I got a lot of lessons from him, from his life before Arsenal, growing up in France, when he went to Japan, you even coached in Japan. The footballers that have gone through his hands, the George Weahs of this life, he's amazing. And how he had to work through moving from Highbury to Emirates, and that affected our squad. And people are like, oh, Arsenal doesn't spend money. But then there were processes going on. And I'm talking about Arsene Wenger's book because my passion for sport, and because I started working first in football, is because I believe sport is an analogy. I like living my life in analogies. So I'll just give one.
Yeah.
Football. When you're playing football, take yourself as number 9, you're the striker. You have your ball, those are your goals, right? And so in life, and they're defenders. So there are hurdles. You don't just get into a football field and you just score. There are people that are trying to defend. There's a proper goalkeeper there, and there's a small net. You also have to make sure that you know where you're pointing, where you are going. And then you also have support systems. You don't just, when the match starts, you don't just go straight and you score. Sometimes you go back, put back the support structures, you pass the ball around.
That's life itself.
That is exactly life. And then if another team scores, if your team scores, the game is not over until the fat lady sings. So life is like that. Even if you go through a setback, somebody is leading 1-0, it doesn't mean that your life has ended. It doesn't mean that is the end of the game. It continues. You have a moment to start again. And then outside, there's my Dipros Michena, outside the Mikel Arteta, the Arsene Wenger, the coach. You've got your mentors who see everything from outside. They have an eagle's eye. And then in the terraces, in the stands, you've got the supporters. Sometimes they're cheering you, sometimes they're booing you. And they're people who've never walked in your feet, in your shoes. And you know, there's somebody who stand up and say, "Bora ripiroro," you know, and they're like,
and they've never kicked a ball.
Never kicked a ball. So there are people like that.
Yeah.
And then there's a referee. There are people who are just waiting to see the next mistake, and they'll blow that whistle, give you a yellow card, give you a red card, but you have to keep going until the end. So it's never over. And it's like that in rugby, it's like that in swimming. You have to swim your lap, you have to keep going. So Arsene Wenger's book for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
I haven't read it, but clearly I'll have to pick a copy and read it because I am an Arsenal. We are the Arsenal.
we are the Arsenal.
And life is about, each one of us has a race.
Indeed.
You run your race.
Stay in your lane.
You keep your lane.
Indeed.
You don't look the other side and compare. If the person is one up, that's okay. You keep on going. One day you'll be one up too.
And we have roles that we play in life.
Number 9 is number 9.
Number 9 is number 9. They're not a defender. We have our set piece specialists as well. It's. I
love that. I love that lesson. Chiedza, wow, what an inspiration of a story. Gratitude all the way. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Trevor.
I know you're talking, you're giving talks, inspiring people. The lessons that life has taught you, you're teaching other people for the benefit of others. You found your purpose. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Trevor.
Thank you so much.
I'm very grateful.
Keep going.
Thank you.
Keep going, girl. Allow me to turn over now to our viewers all over the world who follow this show. Thank you so much for your support. Remember to subscribe so that you don't miss out any of these shows. We are out every Monday at 7 a.m. Central African Time. Subscribe, like, and share. Also, go to our website where we've got all our content, where all our shows sit, podcasts. You can listen to us whilst doing many other things. We see your comments. We see your suggestions. Keep them coming. We value your support. Until next time, cheers to you all.